Howdy folks, I'm back. This is going to be our second installment of Super Simple Winemaking. I am going to show you the wine that we started in the first video, and I'm going to start another batch with a different juice. I was talking to Craig on CraigTube. He makes really great super simple, well, he didn't call it super simple, but it's really great beer making videos. I was talking to him, and I left out a step in the first batch. I did it, but I didn't talk about it, and it's a really important step, and we're going to talk about that when we make the second batch today. But for now, I want to show you the first batch. Normally, this takes a good 30 days to get to this point, but there wasn't a whole lot of sugar in the first batch, or in the juice for the first batch, so it's already finished. So I'm going to move the camera really quick, reorient it, and let's see. Okay, so here is our first batch. This is what we made, and it's the cider. And I actually noticed last night that it wasn't fermenting anymore. There was no longer a large give off of gas from our airlock on top. So primary fermentation had pretty much halted. And there's a couple of things I want to point out. Not sure how well you can see this on camera, but there are lots of little carbonation bubbles in here, and you might be able to see it better. I actually poured some of this off into a glass and added some sugar. Yeah, you can see that on camera. This is the wine we made, and those little bubbles are actually carbonation. That's just like you have in soda or Coke. That's a byproduct of fermentation. So this is one of the reasons why I love using champagne yeast, is because you get that slight carbonation without really even trying, and that does add a really nice element or flavor to your wine. That's why I use the champagne yeast. But now I want you to see something. I'm going to do this very gently. You see that dark line there? That is actually sediment or dead yeast and yeast byproducts that are left over from our fermentation process. So that's what you actually want to pull out via a coffee filter, or if you actually if you pour this wine out of this jug very slowly and just leave that sediment behind, you're probably okay doing that. At this point, there's still active live yeast in here. I've kept this in the refrigerator overnight. Cold temperatures will generally inhibit champagne yeast from fermenting, and most other yeast too, unless it's like a beer lager yeast. So keeping this in the fridge is a must. Something else that we really need to do, oxygen now is going to be our enemy. We wanted that headspace there in the beginning, but now that the fermentation is over, we want to limit this exposure to oxygen. This will really affect our finished flavor. So what I'm probably going to do is I'm going to decant this or pour this wine off into a secondary container, so that it can stay there and I can control the amount of oxygen that the wine receives, and it'll stay in the fridge. Now, if you were to drink this right now, just out of here, it's going to taste pretty nasty because there's no sugar left in it. The yeast have eaten all the sugar, so there's other flavors, but there's no sweet. So what I've done is I've poured some of this off into a glass, and I've actually added unfermentable sugar, or it's not really sugar, it's a sweetener. And I'm going to show you what I've added. You can add regular sugar, but you better keep it in the fridge, and it's still, if you add more sugar to it, it's going to start fermenting again. If you wanted to bottle this, you couldn't add sugar to it at all. So this is what I'm actually enjoying. It's really nice. I'm surprised. I'm going to go buy some more of it. So most sugar that occurs in nature is sweet. And I'm going to move the camera back up momentarily. Most sugar that occurs in nature, I promise my kitchen is not really that messy. It just looks that way on camera. I just cleaned it this morning. Most sugar that occurs in nature, and naturally in fruits and all that fun stuff, is fermentable, which means yeast can eat it to produce carbon dioxide and alcohol. What we want to add to our wine now is an unfermentable sugar. Now, you can get unfermentable sugars from any brewing supply, and I'll put a link up again in the window. But what I have taken to using lately is a product known as stevia, and this is actually a packaged product called New Stevia. Stevia is a plant that's 200 to 300 times sweeter than sugar. And I'm a sugar whore, I'll be the first to admit. I love stuff that's really sweet. I've got a sweet tooth. So I like having a lot of sugar. Well, adding sugar back into wine that you don't want to ferment anymore is bad, because that means it's just going to go crazy, and the yeast is, if there's yeast left in there, and there almost always are, they're going to eat it all up. So this stuff, stevia, and here's the box. I actually buy this at GNC, but you can buy it anywhere you want. It's like $10 for a box of 100. And to give you an idea of how potent this stuff is, when I get a cup of coffee, I normally, if it's regular sugar, I'll put 5, 6, sometimes more sugars in it. I need 2 of these, maybe 3 if I really, really, really want it sweet. But this stuff is crazy sweet. When I originally filled this up, I filled it up to about right there, and there was no sugar left in this at all. I filled it up to about right there, and I put 1 package of these in there, and that's plenty sweet for me. So I can pick these up either online, or you can, the regular stevia, trying to remember where I have it. I have the regular stevia. It's just a regular green plant. You can steep it like tea. I ordered some through eBay, and you can extract the sweet compounds from it just by infusion, just like tea. Or you can get the powdered form, which this is actually, it's the sweet compound bound with, I think, a corn extract, just to make it visible so you can see it, because it's so sweet. The amount of stevia in here is just minuscule. They had to put an additive in here just so that you can see it and they could measure it. So you can get this stuff. And the great stuff about this is it's all natural. It's not like Splenda. It's not processed or manufactured. All stevia is. This is just a brand name new stevia. And for those who are sugar sensitive, like diabetics, it does not produce a glucose response. So you can have 10 tons of this stuff, and it will not affect your blood sugar level. It just has the sweet taste. It's a little bit different than sugar, but I really, really dig it. So this is actually turning into a product endorsement. I didn't mean it to, but this is really great stuff. Everybody should have this. So, all right. So you've got the wine. You've seen that. And we've talked about this stuff. That's complete. That's going in the fridge. And my wife and I will probably enjoy that this evening. I'm already enjoying it now. So I'm going to cap that back off really quick. And this is going to be our next project. I'm going to move the camera again so you guys can see what's going on. We picked this up at, I think, Sam's the other day. It's your regular garden variety ocean spray. Comes with this nice handy little spout. And it's got a nice cap on there. I have not broken the seal at all. So this is going to be our next wine project. Now, let's talk a little bit about, let me get the camera fixed. Let's talk a little bit about sterility. This is what I didn't talk about before. I don't know, I keep moving the camera around. Where to even start? The yeast is a microorganism. It's a lot like any other bacteria, or bacteria in general. I'm not a microbiologist, so please nobody email me about correcting me between the difference between yeast and microbacteria, or microorganisms. Yeast is basically an infection. Anytime you add yeast to something, you're infecting it. If you control the infection, you can control the outcome. You can control what's happening. In all brewing, that's essentially what you're doing. You are getting rid of any other microorganisms that you do not want, and you are infecting the batch with specific microorganisms. In this case, yeast. So it is really, really, really important. I cannot stress this enough, that you do not contaminate your batch of wine with anything else. You normally, in brewing and winemaking, you have to to go through great measures to make sure everything is sterile. It's really not that hard, but you really have to do it. In doing super simple winemaking, like this stuff, anything that's a packaged food like this is already sterile. So as long as you don't contaminate this container, you're okay. It's already sterile. By cracking the lid and just immediately pouring in your yeast and then sealing it off, you're not allowing any contaminants in other than the yeast. That's what you're infecting it with. But if I were to, let me adjust this a little bit, if I were to crack the seal on this bottle and take a swig out of it, there's not a number high enough to tell you how many germs and microbes are in my mouth. Not that I don't brush my teeth, but that's just the way it is. There are germs and microbes everywhere. We cannot afford to have that in our wine. We want just the stuff we want in there. So what I'm going to do, remember in this process, when I move it back down, I really ought to look at getting 2 cameras, you think? In this process, maybe, Bueller, there we go. In this process, we're going to crack the seal. I'm going to pour a little bit off because I want some headspace in there. The first part of fermentation, primary fermentation, is aerobic, which means it happens in the presence of air, or in the presence of oxygen. So we do need that headspace. After fermentation is complete, we don't want that anymore. So, alright, so I'm ready to go. I have my sealed, has not been broken, sterile wine juice container. I have my champagne yeast, and I have my airlock. And I also have, let me find it, you can, if you're a little bit squeamish, you can also use rubber gloves. That's what this is. But this is not, I just had this handy. It's not the stretchy, really stretchy kind of rubber glove, which is really what you would want to do this, so I'm not going to use this. And when I actually put this over the mouth of the bottle, it doesn't create a nice seal. I need to go get a rubber band or something like that. So I'm just going to use the condom again. Let's see. Alright, so I'm going to crack the seal on this puppy. And again, I'm not going to breathe into this. I'm going to keep it sterile. Cracking the seal actually produced a little bit of headspace already, but I'm going to actually pour some of this off into my wine. I'm sure that's going to taste great. Want a little bit more off. Okay, so now we have a nice gap in the top there, and it's actually kind of difficult to see on the camera, but we have a nice gap right here. Oop, get the camera fixed. Oh, nobody's got motion sickness. And I'm going to crack this open, as discussed earlier. Maybe. Where's my pocket knife? Alright. So now we have all the little yeasty beasties. We are going to pour that in our container. Now we have just infected our batch, but we infected it in a good way with exactly what we wanted to infect it with, and of course I have yeast everywhere now. Now we are going to seal our container, and actually I'm going to do a trick real quick. You want as much air and oxygen in your batch as you can, and all this stuff is, all the yeast is freeze-dried or dehydrated, so I'm actually going to shake this up. I didn't do it in the first container, or in the first batch, or I did, but you just didn't see it because I'd already had it started. Alright, that is going to rehydrate our yeast a little bit faster, and it introduced, because of the shaking, it introduced a little bit more oxygen or air into our batch, which is what we want at this stage of fermentation. So I'm going to crack this back open, and keep this because you're going to need it later. Going to crack that back open, going to open our airlock, which in this case is a condom. And, oh, I remember last time we had a problem with that seal, so I'm going to go ahead and cut that off. I just spilled cranberry juice all over myself. Going to cut that off, and now I'm going to unroll it just a bit. I broke it, but it didn't come off. Let's see. Looking for the part there's the part I already cut. There's two bands on this one. There's an inner band and an outer band. There we go. Now it's off. Alright, so I've got our condom. Condoms are also packaged sterile. So, and there we are. And again, the key component in this, I'm going to zoom in so you can see actually a little bit better on this. This is the rest of the condom that's rolled up. I've put this below the threads, so this actually creates an airtight lock or a seal, so that during the fermentation process, what's going to happen is the yeast are going to eat the sugar, and they are going to multiply, and they're going to output alcohol and carbon dioxide. The carbon dioxide in the form of gas is going to build up here and inflate this. Now we do not want our batch of wine to get infected with anything other than the yeast we put in here. So that's why this airlock is so essential. We want the gas to be able to get out, but we don't want anything else to get back in. So as soon as I start to see this inflate, I'm actually going to take a pin, like I did in my first video, and poke a hole through that. And I'm going to set this aside, and when I'll notice that this inflates here probably in a matter of hours, and as soon as that, in the next couple of days when this goes down, then I will throw it in the fridge and siphon it off and re-sweeten it with whatever I want to re-sweeten it with, probably stevia. So that is, in conclusion, our super simple steps. So you've seen exactly how you make wine from two different juices, the exact same procedure, and you've seen how we sweeten it. And you can use anything other than stevia too if you really want to, but definitely make sure it's unfermentable sugar so you don't get a fermentation going again. The other thing I wanted to talk about in this video, and I know it's running a little bit long, and I can run off at the mouth sometimes, but I am seriously thinking, I'm thinking about this, and I'm not sure if I'm going to do it. 99.9% sure, but I want to run it past a couple of folks first. My profession is web and graphic design, and I have spent a lot of time and energy making online courses and online training. That's sort of my specialty. I am thinking about taking the time to make a formal online course on how to do brewing with the full kit, not the simple stuff, the full brewing kit, and make serious wine in relatively large volume, say 5 gallons or so, which is the normal volume. And I'm going to get into all the specifics, everything you need to know to really homebrew wine. And I'm probably going to talk to Craig and see if we can team up and share videos and do beer too, and we'll offer like a nominal monthly fee into the course. But I'm really serious about getting more people involved in brewing. That's what I'm all about. And certainly wouldn't be expensive, a couple of bucks a month, something like that, just to have access to the course and to have access to discussion forums so that folks, you can share ideas and recipes and talk to folks who really know what they're talking about when it comes to brewing. So I'm thinking about doing that, and I'm really interested in everybody's feedback. Is that something, after you try the super simple brewing, is that something you would really be interested in learning how to do? The formal winemaking, as opposed to like Craig does the beer brewing stuff. Would you be interested in something like that? And would you pay a couple bucks a month for it? Is that something you're interested in doing? Certainly, I'm really concerned about not overcharging folks. I don't like charging people for training and knowledge anyway, because you could go look this stuff up, but the experience does come in handy and it has some value. So yeah, if you get a chance, post a video or just post a response on here, and let me know what you think about that, if it's something you would be interested in. We're looking at doing that in the next couple of months. I've already talked to a couple of people to get that rolling and to start shooting videos for it, and it will be done in the. I'm actually going to make a couple of different recipes in the video. It'll be done in much the same format, but a little more elaborate. I won't just be sitting at my desk. You're going to see everything that actually happens step by step, and I'm working on like an actual glossary of terms and links and other resources and stuff like that to throw into the course, so it could basically be a one-stop shop for brewing. So yeah, let me know what you think, and get back to me, and good luck with your brewing. Bye.